Hello everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the Besiege Bots tutorial series. I'm your host, E. If you have joined the Besiege Bots community and don't know where to start, this series will be here to help. In this episode, we'll go over all the things to get started. We'll review basic Besiege building, what mods you need to play Besiege Bots, and how to join Besiege Bots server hosts and tournaments. In the upcoming videos, we will look over building mechanics, blocks and their uses, as well as a few robot archetype case studies, and also more advanced topics in later episodes. Let's start by going over the Besiege building tools. If you are already fluent with the Besiege building itself, then feel free to skip this section. Otherwise, stick around. There are 5 main operations used for building in Besiege: placing blocks, deleting blocks, translating blocks, rotating blocks, and keybinding. With these tools, you can build any vanilla Besiege creation, so we'll go over those first. Before we start, make sure to have the advanced building turned on by clicking into the settings and then clicking on this compass tool, so the translate and rotate tools work on individual blocks. The first tool in the toolbox that we'll go over is block placement. When you start building, you always have this blue starting block, and you can place other blocks on that by selecting what block you want to place on the bottom bar, and then hovering over the place you want to place the block, and then clicking. You can then place blocks onto the other blocks you have already placed. Very simple, not much to adjust. Deleting blocks is also very easy. Just hover over the blocks you want to delete, and press X or the delete key. You can also select multiple blocks with shift click, and then press X or delete to delete multiple blocks at once. The translation tool allows you to move blocks after they've been placed down. You first select the blocks, and then you can drag the arrows, and they will translate in that direction. There are a few parameters you can adjust with this one. You can adjust the increment amount here using the scroll wheel or just typing in the value. You can change whether the translation directions are local to the block or global to the build space using this selector here. You can also adjust whether the center of translation is on the center of mass or on the block connection. It's not very useful for the translation tool, but it will become more useful for the rotation tool later on. Lastly, you can move a bunch of blocks at once by selecting all of them and then moving it with the arrow, and you can change whether multiple blocks selected move all together as a group or move locally to their own local directions. The rotation tool follows the exact same rules as the translation tool. You can adjust the increments here, select and drag the rotation wheel, and the blocks you selected will rotate. You can also change whether the rotation perspective is global or local to the last block you selected. You can change the point of rotation from the connection to the center of mass, and for multiple blocks selected, whether the rotation is applied as a group or locally between the selected blocks. Now, let's suppose you built a basic driving machine with some wheels. You now need to make it actually drive. So this is where keybinding comes in. Select the wrench tool and then select which block you want to keybind. You can now hover over what you want to keybind and press the desired key. You can also change the slider values, so for example with the wheels you can change their speed. With this now, we can bind this driving chassis by binding all of the wheels, and then it will respond to our key presses. And that is all 5 of the main tools in the Besiege Bots building toolkit. A few other ones that are very useful are Mirror, Duplicate, and Paint Bucket. Mirror is very useful because you can select blocks and then mirror them from the point of the last block selected. For example, you can just build half of a robot, and then select that half, then select a block in the middle of that robot, and then mirror the entire chassis over to the other side. It saves a lot of time and ensures that the build is 100% symmetrical. Duplicate is also similarly useful for saving time. Instead of placing down all the blocks, you can select blocks you want to duplicate, press Ctrl D, which duplicates them, and then you can translate or rotate them wherever you want. This is especially useful for patterning things, like if you want a chain of blocks with a specific spacing amount. You can set the spacing distance in the Translate tool, and then duplicate and drag the blocks and it will be at the correct spacing. Rinse and repeat. The same thing applies for if you want to make a ring of blocks. You can then use the Rotate tool along with Duplicate. You can duplicate, then rotate by a specific amount, and then repeat that until you have a full ring. Lastly, we have Paint Bucket, which is self-explanatory. You select which paint to use, and you use it to paint your blocks different colors. We have our own color pack for Besiege bots. More on that next when we talk about mods. That is all for the review on basic Besiege building. We will now go over the Besiege bot's specific things. Most importantly, we have a set of mods that modify the behavior of blocks. The most important one is the Besiege bots mod, the current one being called TEBBM, and adds features like impact sounds and sparks, pneumatics and hydraulics, actually round wheels, as well as Besiege bots specific block strengths. There are a few other mods and our color pack, and they are all available in the Introduction to New Players chat. Once you have these, you can start building your own Besiege bots. I highly recommend also reading the Besiege bots rule set in the rule set channel, so you can build robots that are legal for competing in tournaments. With all the mods installed, you will also be able to join the Besiege bots multiplayer servers. To do that, you can go on the Is the Server Up channel. If there are active servers, they will have their IPs posted, and you can paste that IP into the multiplayer join server text box and join the server. Once you have a robot that you are happy with, you can also register it into the competing robots spreadsheet. You will need to provide a picture that shows the entire robot, as well as the descriptors. You will need to register all the setups, especially if you want to enter tournaments. The formatting for the descriptors is very important, as it goes into the spreadsheet, so please read all the pinned messages for formatting. Once submitted, it will be voted on, and once it passes, the robot will be added to the competing robot spreadsheet and be eligible for ranked fights and tournaments. To join a tournament, first check in announcements which weight class the upcoming tournament will be. You can then submit a registered robot of the corresponding tournament weight class to a moderator by sending them a file of each setup of the robot you want to enter, and you can tell them that you are interested in entering the next tournament. And that's it for the first episode. Next time, we will be talking about some Besiege block connection mechanics. Thank you for watching.